The fat killing you isn't the fat you can pinch, it's the invisible layer suffocating your organs right now. In 3 weeks, you can force this hidden fat out of hiding, using a specific sequence of biological triggers without counting a single calorie. Look down at your stomach right now. Is it soft to the touch or hard, like a drum? While everyone obsesses over the soft tissue they can grab, the actual threat is the dense, inflammatory tissue they cannot see. Visceral fat wraps tightly around your liver and heart like a parasitic vine, quietly driving up your risk of metabolic failure even if you wear a size medium shirt. A 2022 MRI analysis conducted by the Mayo Clinic revealed that up to 30% of adults with a normal body mass index carry lethal amounts of this deep organ fat. The consequence for you is that passing a standard physical means absolutely nothing if your waist feels firm and distended. This internal pressure suffocates your organs, pumping inflammatory cytokines directly into your bloodstream around the clock. Scale numbers lie. You might think you are healthy, but your internal architecture tells a completely different story, actively building arterial plaque while you sleep. Schedule a DEXA scan this month to measure your exact visceral fat mass instead of relying on a useless bathroom scale. Imagine flipping a breaker switch in your house that instantly powers down the heating and turns on the air conditioning. Your body possesses an exact biological equivalent called AMPK, an enzyme that acts as your master metabolic switch. When activated, AMPK halts all new fat storage and forces your cells to burn existing visceral fat for immediate energy. Dr. David Sinclair's lab at Harvard Medical School demonstrated in 2023 that targeted thermal and chemical triggers can sustain AMPK activation for up to 24 hours. If this switch remains off, every carbohydrate you eat gets packed directly around your organs, regardless of your caloric deficit. Activating it means your body spends the entire day scavenging its own deep fat stores just to maintain basic functions. You become a walking fat incinerator. The entire protocol we are building today relies on chaining specific triggers together so this switch never turns off. Drink a large glass of ice water immediately upon waking to initiate this thermal activation cascade before you eat anything. It takes exactly 90 seconds of severe physical discomfort to double the metabolic rate of your brown adipose tissue. This specialized brown fat exists solely to generate heat, and its preferred fuel source is the visceral fat strangling your organs. During a clinical trial at Leiden University in the Netherlands, subjects who endured specific cold protocols reduced their visceral fat area by 8% in 30 days, verified by MRI. The mechanism is simple but brutal. Extreme cold triggers a massive norepinephrine release, which latches onto visceral fat cells and forces them to dump their stored energy. If you only rely on diet, you completely miss this thermal pathway, leaving the most stubborn fat deposits completely untouched. By utilizing cold, you bypass insulin resistance entirely and force the tissue to burn itself away. The shiver is the biological signal. That involuntary muscle spasm tells you the norepinephrine flood has successfully reached your deep abdominal cavity. Turn your morning shower to the coldest possible setting for the final 90 seconds, ensuring the water hits the back of your neck. You cannot exercise away organ fat if your body lacks the chemical signal to release it. Grains of paradise, a West African spice from the ginger family, contains an active compound called 6-paradol that directly stimulates the destruction of deep belly fat. A landmark study published in the British Journal of Nutrition proved that just 30 milligrams of this extract daily significantly increased energy expenditure and melted visceral tissue in healthy men within 4 weeks. This spice essentially chemically replicates the effects of a cold plunge without the physical suffering. By adding this compound to your system, you amplify the brown fat activation we just triggered, creating a compounding thermal effect that lasts for hours. You are essentially throwing gasoline onto the metabolic fire we started in the shower. It forces fat into the furnace. The pharmaceutical Industry has spent billions trying to synthesize this exact biological mechanism, yet this simple seed does it naturally. Purchase an extract standardized to 12.5% 6-paradol and take 30 milligrams daily just before your largest meal. What if the bacteria living in your intestines had more control over your waistline than your daily caloric intake? The gut fat axis is a direct communication line between your digestive tract and your deep fat stores, and it dictates exactly where your body stores excess energy. In 2019, researchers from King's College London analyzed 1,600 twins and discovered that specific microbial diversity predicted visceral fat levels with 75% accuracy, completely independent of genetics or exercise habits. If your microbiome is dominated by the wrong bacteria, your body operates in a constant state of low-grade inflammation, commanding your liver to pack fat tightly around your internal organs. Fixing this bacterial ratio flips the command, releasing short-chain fatty acids like butyrate that dissolve that same fat. Your gut commands your fat cells. This completely shatters the misconception that visceral fat is just a math problem of calories in versus calories out. It is fundamentally a bacterial environment issue. Eat 3 tablespoons of raw, unpasteurized sauerkraut or kimchi every single day to rapidly inoculate your gut with these fat-burning strains. A patient named Marcus struggled for a decade to lose the hard, distended belly pushing against his belt, despite running 20 miles a week. His internal inflammation markers were severely elevated until he introduced 3 daily teaspoons of a 2,000-year-old remedy called black seed oil. A 2020 clinical trial in phytotherapy research documented that overweight subjects taking 3 grams of this exact oil daily for 8 weeks saw statistically significant reductions in trunk fat via DEXA scans. The active molecule, thymoquinone, physically prevents your liver from converting excess blood sugar into organ fat while simultaneously shutting down the genes responsible for creating new fat cells. For you, this means stopping the accumulation process at the cellular level, ensuring that the fat you burn off never returns. It stops new fat dead. This dual action approach, blocking storage while burning reserves, is why this specific oil consistently outperforms standard dietary restrictions in clinical settings. Mix 1 teaspoon of cold-pressed, organic black seed oil into a small glass of water with lemon juice every morning. We are exactly halfway through the sequence that will strip the fat off your organs. If you want to keep rebuilding your internal biology, hit subscribe right now. The next compound literally edits how your fat cells express their genes. The most potent epigenetic fat blocker in the world is currently sitting in the produce aisle for less than $3. Sulforaphane, highly concentrated in broccoli sprouts, activates a master antioxidant pathway called NRF2 that permanently alters how your fat cells behave. Researchers at Kanazawa University discovered in 2019 that sulforaphane directly turns off the PPAR gamma gene, slashing the creation of new visceral fat cells by up to 37%. When you consume this compound, you are literally reaching into your DNA and editing the instructions that tell your body to store organ fat. This means even if you consume excess energy, your body physically struggles to pack it away in the dangerous visceral region. The chronic inflammation locking your belly fat in place dissolves, leaving the tissue vulnerable to the AMPK switch we activated earlier. You are rewriting your fat genes. This is the ultimate biological hack for long-term leanness, effectively bulletproofing your organs against future accumulation. Consume exactly 1 cup of fresh broccoli sprouts daily, chewing them thoroughly to release the active enzyme. No other natural compound on Earth rivals the targeted visceral fat destruction of clinical-grade berberine. This bright yellow alkaloid activates the AMPK metabolic switch so aggressively that a 2023 study in Frontiers in Pharmacology proved it matched the efficacy of metformin, the world's most prescribed diabetes medication. In human trials, obese subjects taking 500 milligrams 3 times daily decreased their visceral fat area by an astonishing 23% in 12 weeks. Berberine forces your muscles to absorb blood sugar instantly, completely starving the visceral fat cells of the fuel they need to survive and expand. When you take You simulate the profound metabolic effects of an intense fasting state while digesting a full meal. It chemically mimics extreme fasting. Your body operates as if it is starving for energy, draining the deep abdominal cavity to compensate for the artificial deficit. Take 500 milligrams of high-quality berberine exactly 15 minutes before your 3 largest meals of the day. What happens if you take all these compounds at the exact wrong time of day? Timing dictates efficacy, and randomly swallowing these supplements wastes your money and completely destroys the compounding thermal effect. The chronobiology of fat loss requires that cold exposure in grains of paradise hit your system in the morning when your cortisol naturally peaks and brown fat is most receptive. Taking berberine away from meals renders its blood sugar shuttling mechanism completely useless, as there is no glucose spike to suppress. If you align them perfectly, the cold triggers the release, the spices accelerate the burn, and the berberine blocks the restorage. You construct an inescapable biological trap that forces the visceral tissue to shrink hour by hour. Timing is your absolute weapon. The synergy of this exact sequence is the only reason this protocol works significantly faster than traditional caloric restriction. Write out a strict daily schedule, taping the morning thermal triggers to your bathroom mirror and the metabolic blockers to your refrigerator. While most people toss broccoli sprouts onto a hot pan or into boiling soup, heat instantly destroys the fragile myrosinase enzyme required to create sulforaphane. If that enzyme dies, the precursor molecule glucoraphanin passes through your digestive tract completely inert, offering zero genetic fat-blocking benefits. A team at Johns Hopkins University demonstrated that heating the sprouts above 140 degrees Fahrenheit entirely neutralizes their epigenetic power, turning a medicinal food into useless fiber. This means you could eat 10 pounds of cooked sprouts and never trigger the NRF2 pathway required to strip the fat off your liver. You must preserve the chemical reaction by mechanically crushing the plant cell walls at room temperature. Heat destroys the molecular magic. The entire fat-blocking cascade depends on this single, volatile chemical conversion happening directly inside your mouth or a blender. Add your daily cup of sprouts to your meals only after the food has completely cooled down to room temperature. Picture the next 3 weeks of your life playing out in high-speed time-lapse photography. By day 7, your gut microbiome shifts, drastically reducing the physical bloating and halting the inflammatory cytokine storm bombarding your arteries. By day 14, the daily cold exposure in grains of paradise have expanded your brown fat density, meaning your resting body temperature rises and you burn more fuel while sitting perfectly still on the couch. As you cross the 21-day mark, the berberine and sulforaphane have aggressively blocked new lipid accumulation, allowing your liver and kidneys to finally shed the dense, suffocating layer of adipose tissue. You might not see a massive drop on the scale immediately, but your internal organs are literally breathing easier. Your organs are finally free. This timeline represents a permanent structural upgrade to your metabolism, not a temporary fluctuation in water weight. Take a baseline waist measurement with a fabric tape measure today, and refuse to check it again until day 22. You now possess the exact biological levers required to systematically dismantle the most dangerous tissue in your body. Relying on starvation diets to target visceral fat is a scientifically bankrupt strategy that inevitably leads to muscle loss and erect metabolism. By manipulating AMPK, activating brown fat thermogenesis, and editing your gut microbiome, you force your body to preferentially attack the deep organ fat it usually fights to protect. This 24-hour protocol transforms your internal environment from a stagnant storage facility into a highly efficient, fat-burning engine. The era of being thin on the outside but metabolically ruined on the inside is officially over. You control the internal switch. The science is fully established, the compounds are widely available, and the only missing variable is your execution of the daily sequence. Commit to executing all 6 steps of this specific biological protocol.